Q17. The famous remote viewer Ingo Swann said that he saw naked-looking humans/ETs walking on the moon's surface. Is there a breathable atmosphere in some parts of the moon? There are many dozens of ET groups based in embassy zones in the moon. He could have been viewing any number of them. Their uniforms, suits may have given the appearance of them being naked. As a RV practitioner myself, I have an understanding of how some of the imagery language translates at times. There is an extremely thin atmosphere that is very near to the surface of the moon, down in craters, and away from the sun-facing side, so it is not constant as the Earth, Moon rotate around the Sun. It is not breathable at all and filled with a fine dust that would rip your lungs apart if you were unwise enough to try. The dust and ice crystals do make for some interesting light phenomena at times. Many people who do remote viewing or OBs have an experience of being brought to a place on the moon, a sort of gathering place before they travel further out into the Sol system and beyond. This is fairly common and I have experienced it myself. It is not in the physical realm, nor is it a physical place. Q18. In a famous radio intercept during the Apollo 11 mission, Neil Armstrong said that there were two large menacing-looking UFOs watching the astronauts. Was that a genuine incident? The moon is divided into embassy zones, much like maps of Antarctica, that belong to dozens of different off-world, and ancient breakaway human groups that do not get along. Many of the worst enemies are based only a few kilometers away from each other and have done so for thousands of years in peace. The moon is a diplomatic zone and conflict is not tolerated on or around it. Diplomatic territory is highly respected and not trespassed on by other groups. If the Apollo landings chose to land in some of these diplomatic zones, which is just about every square inch of the moon, they more than likely landed on territory of a group that did not appreciate it. They were most likely given a stern request to leave and not return to this location by whatever group they were trespassing on. Q19. Who are NASA and the Apollo astronauts from the moon? I do not know specifically which group gave a warning or what that warning specifically was. Q20. What can you tell us about the other shared human moon base used by the Dark Fleet? It is a heavily guarded and secret base that is at about the 10 o'clock position, on the backside of the moon. The portion that is visible is a trapezoid shape. It is only accessible to the Dark Fleet and some ICC personnel as well as the Draco Allied forces. Some amateur astronomers have caught video of swarms of craft leaving from this base location on a couple of occasions. It is presumed to go far beneath the surface of the moon just as the Luck does. Q21. What do you know of other bases on the moon that are controlled, populated by non-human extraterrestrials? Other than what was explained above about the diplomatic zones and embassies, I do not have much more information. There are quite a lot of ancient ruins from previous disasters and wars that are left on the moon as a memorial both to the ancient builders and to the long-term peace that has been maintained on the moon. At times these ancient ruins are open to be visited but are mostly protected and off-limits. I do not fully understand why this is the case, but these ruins are spectacular and highly respected. Q22. Has the Sphere Alliance established a presence on the moon, or exerting influence over moon operations? No. The Sphere Alliance are 6th through 9th density beings that do not inhabit the spheres, use the spheres as vessels, require technology to travel or a base of operations. When they are not here interacting with us, they are either back at their home density or are around us in a phased-out, different frequency, state that makes them invisible to us. They observe and interact with us at will and then travel back to their home density by just a thought. Many of our density are having a very difficult time understanding the existence and abilities of a group from 6th through 9th density realities. We have no way to begin to fathom the way they perceive us or our behavior in our density. Everything is vibration. Energy, matter and even thought is all vibration. They can control matter and energy's vibrational state by their thought, consciousness and without the need of technology. Some of the beings that are extremely advanced and are 4th through 5th density beings still have some of the same limitations we do even though they are much more advanced. These beings are not used to dealing with other beings that are so much more advanced than they are. This outer barrier is something that has contained even them within our Sol system. Additional questions, May 16, 2015, Q23. You have responded to questions, article comments, by a former DIA employee, Christopher, concerning an intermediate level of classified space programs comprising the U.S. Naval Network and Space Operations Command and the USAF Space Command. You say that this intermediate level, compartment, was not given need-to-know access to the Solar Warden and other space programs with off-planet activities. Is this basically because this intermediate level, compartment, of classified space programs has been denied access to anti-gravity technologies and spacecraft? They have had access to some of the gravity cancellation technologies but not the deep space flight technologies. Where it would take them 45 minutes to a couple of hours to get to the moon, the advanced SSP shuttles have the capability to pick up personnel from ground level and have them in position asking for clearance to land at the LUC in under 5 minutes. The technology that these lower military black ops programs have access to is quite a bit less advanced. They still use fly-by-wire instead of neurointerfaces to pilot craft and use kinetic weapons such as railguns and supersonic smart missiles, as well as deliver ordnance that is not too dissimilar of that in use by fighter jets and bombers such as the F-35. They have spaceplanes that can take off from a secret military base and leave the atmosphere without a booster of any type and fly in and out of the atmosphere at will. They do not have the maneuverability and range that the more advanced secret space programs do, from the current era breakaway civilization. Q24. The USAF X-37B orbital test vehicle is set to launch on May 20 for another long orbit in space. It appears to be a small unmanned version of the space shuttle that uses conventional rocket propulsion technologies to spend up to 2 years in Earth orbit. Is this the kind of space surveillance and covert orbital operations favored by the intermediate-level space programs that use outdated conventional propulsion technologies, spacecraft, while strongly believing these technologies, spacecraft are state-of-the-art? Yes, there is a breakaway civilization and a completely different control system that very few are privy to. Those that are in the national military black ops programs are not read into the full picture of what is going on. They are given various cover stories and told that the things they track are our technologies from other black programs. They are spending trillions of dollars on lower technology that has its roots in the 19th/20th centuries with mainly advances in electronics and material sciences. The LUC does their best to control traffic to make sure that none of these groups observe technology that they are not supposed to know about. Those who fly manned spaceplanes that sometimes dock with the ISS and other secret space stations of lower-tech programs sometimes observe craft that they are not supposed to, and they are debriefed and sworn to secrecy, usually knowing more about what is going on in outer orbit than their commanding officers. These personnel are often pulled into the advanced secret space programs once they reach a certain amount of first-hand experiences. Recently, some of these groups that would swear that they were at the top of the pyramid of the military space programs and have the highest clearances have been invited to the LUC for some of the alliance conferences. Their reactions were the most interesting of all. They sat with their arms crossed and kept to themselves with wide eyes and slightly upset looks on their faces. They of all people asked the fewest questions during the conference and left quickly without fraternizing with their new colleagues. Q25. The former DIA employee, Christopher, says that the U.S. Naval Network and Space Operations Command partnered with the Defense Intelligence Agency, while the U.S. Air Force Space Command partnered with the CIA. Given the CIA's role in covert operations sanctioned by the cabal, Illuminati, would it be fair to say that the senior officials in the USAF Space Command are more likely to be compromised and ally with the Dark Fleet and illegal ICC activities such as lying to recruited scientists and personnel about off-planet working conditions? Not necessarily. The personnel I worked with ranged from a majority of my lab program trained and drafted persons to a full representation of all of the services, including the Coast Guard in some cases, believe it or not. These were often mixed military forces, security teams and operatives working together based on their strengths and what they have to offer the program. For the most part the personnel were raised through MyLab programs and trained from their youth and later drafted into working in either the SSP, secret Earth governments or their syndicates. I am sure this is different in each of the programs however. The DIA, CIA, NSA or any of the other intelligence services never flashed badges or IDs around outside of our orbit. These intelligence agencies have no oversight, control or knowledge of what these advanced secret space programs are doing. There are other intelligence agencies associated with each of the SSPs as well as military and command structures that do not report to Earth-based American or Western governments. This is of course because we are talking about a complete breakaway civilization that does not exist according to even the American shadow government and their black ops programs. There are multiple secret Earth governments and their syndicates, made up of occult groups and secret societies, that secretly run much of the off-world commerce as well as are the real people in charge of the publicly seen governments on Earth that people think they vote for and take part in. Q26. Would it be accurate to say that senior officials within the U.S. Naval Network and Space Operations Command are more likely to be aligned with the Solar Warden space program even though the rank-and-file personnel, e.g., Christopher, aren't briefed about the anti-gravity spacecraft and off-world missions? I do not think that it was a coincidence that a person claiming to be a former DIA agent living in Russia, there is a growing expatriate community of former American intelligence personnel in Russia and a couple former Soviet republics, commented on the military Black Ops space program that was also a part of the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, era. We may hear from him or another one of them again after this article is posted. Regarding your question, this has recently changed. These people in the past fell into the groups, except for a select few, that were only aware of the military secret Black Ops programs. They were not aware of a completely separate breakaway civilization that was so much further advanced than they are that they are not even a part of our society or governmental structures. When some of these select people that were involved in the military Black Ops space program were found to be involved in the Earth-based alliance, they were invited into the SSP alliance. They began traveling to the lock, that they didn't know existed, for the first time during the same time as the first group of Earth-based alliance politicians and the 70 civilians that were invited to attend a separate conference and tour of the lock. This is a fairly recent development and they are adjusting to the change as well as for the first time working as liaisons between the Earth-based alliance and the SSP alliance, who have different agendas. Q27. On June 11, 1985, Ronald Reagan wrote in his diary, "Our shuttle capacity is such that we could orbit 300 people." Was Reagan here referring to the intermediate space program run by the U.S. Navy and/or U.S. Air Force, rather than the Solar Warden or other 4 secret space programs that you have previously described? There is a craft that is a personnel transport shuttle that transports 300 people when carrying lower deck cargo or near 600 people when transporting personnel only. I believe Reagan was most likely referring to some of the military personnel carriers that was designed to deliver just below 300 special operators and their equipment anywhere in the world in less than an hour. It was a part of the military Black Ops SDI space program. It was a rapid deployment shuttle for extreme circumstances and could deliver Delta, SEAL teams, forces undetected via this secret craft that was a huge stealth shuttle with electrostatic, magnetic gravity cancellation. I do not know if it was ever used. Q28. In your response to Christopher, in article's comments section, you say, the secret Earth military programs that have programs that are developed for secondary disclosure reasons. What do you mean by secondary disclosure? Would this be part of a false flag alien invasion scenario aimed at deceiving the public? Yes, not only are there often multiple programs run under the same program names, example Pegasus, there is also a level of the secret Earth governments that if it becomes necessary, would have outed the military Black Ops space program, SDI era technology, as a faux disclosure to throw anyone investigating them off of their scent. This would placate the people who were digging for the truth and keep the existence of their secret breakaway civilization hidden. The use of multiple program names is handy in a similar scenario. If you are called before a Senate hearing about a project name that some have provided information about and stated that crimes against humanity have occurred and alien contact has occurred, etc., they can pull out the related project name and history and show that it is a classified satellite program and disclose all of the documents to an intelligence committee of that congressional hearing. They can then bury the other project by the same name in plain sight and carry on as if nothing occurred. They have an amazing number of tricks to keep their secrets and making people look like fools or ruining people's lives. To do so is nothing they will lose sleep over. This is something that especially those in some of the highest placed military black ops programs and intelligence agencies will not ever allow themselves to believe. They will not ever believe it is possible unless some of the recent people read into the SSP Alliance conferences have verified this information to them, if they have a need to know.